Welcome to the Power of Lifting podcast. I'm EricCafferty, owner of the Mecca Gym. I am a strength and conditioning coach and a contest prep specialist. The focus of this podcast is to dive into the mindset and the drive of people who have done incredible things with their lives. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Power of Lifting podcast.
Here we are.
I'm excited to be here today.
Same.
I know Hunter's excited to be here today.
Excited to be here today.
Podcasting day is the best day.
It's a good day.
Even though it's an odd day.
It is an odd day.
It's an odd day to be podcasting day. It's not our normal day, but schedules got thrown off. In case the people haven't heard, I came down with not the Rona.
Not the Rona. Let's make this clear.
But some sort of rotavirus or something that's been kind of going around. And my youngest, I think I shared a meal with him immediately getting back from hunting, which was just anyway, we'll get to that later. It was a great ordeal. We were still yet to be successful, but that just means that there's more hunting to happen later on, which is great. So it's fine. So don't feel bad for us. But I got back from an adventure hiking my little feet off for days, and then caught a nice little virus from young Logan, and spent an entire day when we were supposed to be doing this podcast, losing fluids
no
out of both ends.
Yes,
if you catch my drift. So
the drift is caught.
So I didn't want to spread the love to Hunter and our other guests that we had scheduled. So anyway,
it's much appreciated.
I digress. So we are on an odd night podcasting, but it feels good. It feels right.
It feels good to be here.
It feels good and it feels right.
I like the opportunity we have to talk even about something a little bit different than what we usually talk about.
Like losing it out both ends. Let me tell you, dude, I hadn't dry heaved in a while, if you guys are looking for one of the best ab workouts out there, I mean, dude,
screw the vacuums.
Just go dry heave for a day, man. I was sore. Real sore.
Terrible.
It was terrible. And don't tell anybody this, but I keep some Zofran at home, and thank God for that.
Thank God for that.
But anyway, we're not going to talk about this anymore.
We know now that this is the issue that Eric had over the weekend, and we all are all happy you're back.
To be frank, I would rather have that 10 times, or I would rather have COVID 10 times than that again. That was horrific.
No, well, that puts it in perspective, I think.
Wow,
that's gross.
COVID wasn't that bad for me, so
for you, blessings to you.
Not to be insensitive.
Maybe working out, taking the vitamins.
That's right. So this is pretty cool. We've got for those of you on the YouTubes, you can see this, but if you're just listening on Spotify or another just audio platform, we have got our asset daily packs all packaged up, looking pretty, to complement our other supplements. We have the D, the C, the digestive enzymes. Breakdown, yes, and then the unwind. So the vitamin packs actually have the vitamin C, the vitamin D3, and the digestive enzymes in there.
Oh, so you already got it covered.
So you're already covered in the packs, man. You just 1 a.m., 1 p.m., good to go.
They're all separated out for you. You just roll it out of the box, rip it up.
It is the most convenient thing in the world, let me tell you. So, it's literally everything that, probably 80 to 90% of people that exercise, I will say, need in as far as vitamin profile. We've got lots of great stuff in there, to include multivitamin, B vitamin, like I mentioned, the enzymes, the D, the C, tons of mag, calcium. Anyway, the list goes on. But it's basically, I designed it to be everything that somebody needs in a day. So you don't have to deal with all the gnarly pill bottle situation, tackle box full of pills. I mean, I still keep one, but it's just for emergencies at this point.
Yeah, right.
On the daily, we've got the packs just ready to go. And then on top of that, taking some caged muscle creatine, taking some hydrocharge still.
Mm-hmm.
Of course,
well, you
love
can't miss
love
the
those.
hydrocharge.
Some pre-workout, go back and forth, on those. And then our unwind, that should be a staple.
Mm-hmm.
The unwind should absolutely be a staple. Magnesium, L-theanine, GABA, great bedtime cocktail, doesn't leave you feeling hungover. A lot of those bedtime mixes that I've taken in the past, they just leave you feeling weird.
So yeah, you just feel funky.
Hungover. You know what I mean? So I mean, not to. So
you may have fallen asleep, but that's not necessarily the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Happy Gilmore.
Yes, yeah.
I will put you to sleep, Ben Stiller.
Yes, Ben Stiller.
But yeah. Anyway, great stuff.
And it's flavorless, right?
Yep.
So you just throw that into something.
I actually mix it with more magnesium. Everybody knows I'm a big Calm fan.
Yep.
So yeah, I mix it with Calm and then of course hydrocharge because hydrocharge is just my jam.
Have you so before it kind of unwind came to pass, but with the Calm, did you ever do, because it says I really love how it says on the thing, it's the directions, it says mix with hot water or warm water,
right?
But then it also says, but you can also do it in cold water or any other beverage you want.
Yeah.
It's almost well, what was the point of saying that anyway?
I think it's the the effervescent type of situation, it's kind of bubbly. I don't know if they envision people making it like a tea,
right? That's what I was
thinking.
warm
tea, it's soothing to go to sleep or whatever.
Right.
I mean, personally, I mix those the unwind, hydrocharge, and then the Calm with ice and water,
right?
Then just pound it.
I did it warm for a little while, but it was weird. It just didn't really it didn't taste great. But I was I'm getting my mag. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna drink it. Because that's what it said. When I was no. And then you mentioned in that other episode, you mix it with the hydrocharge and the ice stuff and take it cold. So I did the same thing, hydrocharge and stuff. And yeah, that's the good brew.
It is a good brew. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah,
that's a good brew.
much better than the booze, for you.
Yeah, right.
Right. A lot of people have a particular type of nightcap. I have an unwind Calm hydrocharge nightcap. What can I say?
What can you say?
Yeah, and actually Caged recently came out with a sleep supplement as well that I've been meaning to give her a shot. I'm so stuck on my unwind routine right now. I don't want to.
Right. Well, I mean, you made this up yourself and it works. So.
Yes. Well, and I actually, funny we talk about me going up hunting. I actually made sure to bring my unwind with me wherever I went so that I get good sleep even up whilst chasing mythical creatures in the mountains.
It's beautiful. Right? That's right.
Anyway, I don't know where we were going with that.
Well, we were going with Asset.
Okay.
And the phenomenal supplements.
Where are we going today, Hunter? Drive me on a drive.
I'm going to take you on a drive through the mountains.
Ooh,
I think
please do.
One of the things, because we can, and this is a weird episode and off the beaten path.
I mean, we're already talking about both ends.
Right. I mean, anything can go at this point.
Yeah, now we've broken the barrier.
Yeah, right. The ice has been broken. No, you mentioned you went hunting, and the winter months are upon us.
Ooh, yes.
So talking about the when it gets cold, I think a lot of people shift mindsets dramatically during the season.
Are we talking exercise in the cold here?
We're talking exercise in the cold. We're talking about outdoor activities. We're talking about staying athletic when it's cold outside.
Okay, yeah, let's do this. Yeah.
Nice.
So, one of the things that I haven't really gotten into just yet, but everybody's going to be like, oh, great, here he goes again about the biking. But I want to try fat tire biking in the snow.
Oh.
I've not done it yet.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like it would just be a trip, especially with a lot of these fat tire bikes. They have these these deals that go on your handlebars that are these hand guards that have you could probably put warmers in there.
Okay.
But yeah, you shove your hands in these things and they're like a shield for your hands. It's kind of cool looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, fat tire biking out in the snow, that'd be sweet.
That would be sweet. Do you have you done fat tire biking at all?
Never. Yeah. No.
Nice.
Sounds like a great time.
It does.
Yeah. I've biked my bike in the snow. That doesn't work super well.
Yeah, that would be a little bit less fun.
Yeah, that's not
just
super great.
Spinning out the entire time.
It's horrific, yeah. But then, of course, there's, I love backcountry snowshoeing. That's great. Cross-country skiing's aight. we'll call it, you know. Yeah, cross country skiing, you know, I even playing hockey, you know, I skated and stuff, and I'm not going to knock cross country skiing. I think it's, you know, people that do it are freaking, some of them are studs, man. Absolute studs.
Oh, jeez.
You have to be in great shape to be competitive at that. But anyway, not super my jam. I do love downhill skiing. I actually grew up snowboarding.
Okay. What changed you on that one? I'm sure you still love both.
I got old, bro. That's what happens. I got old. No, I grew up. I only skied once when I was a kid, like really, really little, probably like about Walker's age, like 6 or 7.
Okay.
And it was great. Had a blast. But then that's right when snowboarding was becoming popular. So of course I'm like, well, I want to be one of the cool kids in snowboard.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So I snowboarded up until basically until I got into bodybuilding, until I started college. And then I sold my snowboard. I just hadn't gone in forever. Casey wasn't a snow bunny, so to speak. You know, and just lifting and all that jazz. And it was, something I got out of. And then I actually got into skiing because of my wife, because she wanted something to do in the winter, because she's like, dude, I'm just depressed in the winter and there's nothing to do. Right. So let's find something to do, and
let's go hurling down a snowy mountain.
Yeah, let's go freaking blazing trails on the snow. That's sick. And so she wanted to get into it, and she'd only skied a little bit, like in high school and stuff, and it was basically my first time on skis. You know, we kind of, dude, the first time we rented skis, went up to Brundage, it was just a disaster.
Oh, I'm sure
it was amazing.
Phenomenal show to watch.
Oh, dude, you want to feel uncoordinated.
Right.
Ski for the first time at the age of 30. You know what I mean? Like, holy crap. But, you know, luckily I pride myself on being athletic, and I can teach myself how to do anything that requires some athletic ability. But man, you can really tell a difference if you're not somebody who grew up, you know, doing something, learning those movement patterns at a young age. But I think I hold my own now.
There you go.
We've been crushing it for a few years.
That's awesome.
So that's a great thing to do. I mean, really, you know, when it comes to, you know, sports outside, you know, in the cold weather, I think you can really shake anything if you're dressed appropriately, you know. And that's one thing that I really nerd out about is outdoor apparel and like the gear that you use for specific activities and things like that.
Let's dive into it then, because a lot of people are like, yeah, I could throw on snow boots, maybe a little bit of pants, some undergarments, and a sweater and get out there.
Yeah, I mean, it all really depends on, you know, the activity that you're trying to do. So, you know, especially if you live in an area that's, you know, cold, you might have some, you know, precipitation, but you're not necessarily dealing with buckets and buckets of snow. Like
that's true.
In Boise, for example, like, you know, there's some snow, but it's not like buckets and buckets of snow. It's just, you know, generally speaking, more wet. And then there's, you know, it's freezing, and then it's not freezing, and, you know, the weather's kind of has a little bit of ADD going on.
Oh, it's nuts around here.
So, you know, with changing conditions and things like that, and a lot of that, you know, you can relate to like being up in the mountains and stuff. But yeah, doing things outside and sports when it gets cold, it really does come down to, you know, your gear and what specific activity you're doing.
Right.
So, you know, you can end up having quite the collection, so to speak, of gear and different shoes and boots, and, you know, just depending on, you know, what activities that they are that you're doing.
Right.
Like if you're, you know, for example, since I just went hunting, we'll take hunting as a good example.
I think we should. I think a lot of our audience is fond of that. And
you know, and I actually wrote a paper for my master's degree on, you know, this particular topic, and there's not a lot of research that I could find, at least. Now,
you were basically writing the paper at that point.
I'm kinda. I mean, it was really funny actually. There's like some, you know, stuff that I could find on like, you know, merino wool and things like that, but pretty sparse in terms of like research that I could find. Right. Now, you know, somebody else might be like, oh, you freaking idiot, you weren't looking in the right place. It could be true. Like, I'm used to looking at exercise science
Right.
research. So, I mean, whatever. Take that with a grain of
To
salt.
be fair, though, I mean, I think it's a subject that people don't pay attention to. Until they have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, people really don't know jack about outdoor clothing and how you should be dressing. I mean, I see people out wearing just totally the wrong things, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna be miserable. Part of the reason why people don't want to go outside in gnarly conditions is because they're freaking miserable because they're wearing a hoodie and it's like a blizzard, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Maybe on the flip side too, I go out and then the person just gets super hot when they don't need to be.
Right.
And then they just drain their energy.
Exactly. And so maybe you put on, a big puffy coat and then you just end up taking the coat off because you're too hot, and then you're too cold. And then, so yeah, it's a huge topic, I think, that should be actually discussed more. And I think it's super, super interesting. But, we may just lose all our listeners by me talking about this. But,
I agree with you. It's
a lot of people know, you want to focus on layers, right?
Sure.
So, I've read a bunch of stuff from people that hunt and do the outdoor stuff. The guy that does Meat Eater, what's his name? Oh, man.
Meat Eater.
Yeah, super famous guy. He was just on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Oh,
what's his name? He wrote a book anyway. Steve Rinella, that's his name.
Oh, you already got it. I didn't even have to look at it.
It was just it's a weird time, Hunter. Just drawing a blank. I need sleep or something. Anyway, Steve Rinella. Yeah, he wrote an outdoor survival guide book and stuff, and he talks about this a little bit. But I wish he would have talked about it more because it's so freaking important how you're dressing, even down to when you go skiing, when you I was giving the example of me going hunting, when you're in outdoor conditions and you are not going to be able to have somewhere to go inside to for days potentially, right you might be stuck out in the elements for days.
So your shelter is literally your clothes.
Right, exactly. So how are you going to survive, and obviously, you can do fires and things like that. And so when I'm hunting, even when it is in the negative temps outside, we have a pellet stove that's this super tricky, really persnickety, we'll call it.
That's
really
a great
finicky
word.
Pellet feeder. I call it like a chingus. I don't know. It's like a little doomahickey. You know what I mean?
You're going up with some fabulous words right now.
Dude, so this thing is so persnickety. It's ridiculous. But when you can get it, I think I finally got its number, because for years my dad would just dink with it. And now I've had to do it a bunch. It's like trial by fire type.
Yeah, you kind of figure out how you do it.
Oh, dude.
Literally
and
fire.
It is so, anyway, and you have to use a propane, hardcore flame, one of those.
The trigger ones you put on, you screw onto them, and
Yeah, exactly, with the little green, propane canister. Right. And anyway, so we have that in our wall tent. And so, that keeps it, when it's negative 10 outside at night, it keeps it probably, I don't know, 30, 40 in the tent, maybe.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, balmy 30 or 40 in the tent, right? And then you fire up your cook stove in there, and then you get some more heat, and you're like, now we're talking, we're all going to die from, carbon monoxide poisoning. This is great.
Hey, man, you got to take what you can get.
Anyway, back on topic. So talking about the clothes you wear in those particular situations, super important. So one of the main things that you got to worry about, especially if you're active outside and you're not just sitting at a kid's soccer game, is, movement and dealing with, your perspiration, right?
Well, sure.
Because, you're going to be potentially exerting yourself and you are going to be sweating. So controlling temperature in all parts of your body. So, what kind of layers do you need on top, on bottom? The big things that you'll notice when you're doing activities outdoors, when it is cold outside, is feet and hands.
Right.
Those are the first two things you should think of, is feet and hands, because those are going to be the most difficult things to balance.
Right.
First of all, what are you going to be doing with your feet and hands in those activities, right? Like, for me, if I'm having to like tie saddles and do stuff with your hands, right, like you would expect to, I'm not going to be able to really wear mittens, right?
No, the thick gloves, forget about it.
Or like gloves that prevent me from doing stuff. So you're talking about being in super cold weather. Same thing with like skiing. Skiers typically, they kind of want to wear like a smaller glove. They're grabbing on to poles, and I like a more streamlined glove when I'm skiing, but my hands also run freaking cold. So do my feet. So, those are things that, I got to make sure that I'm spending money on getting good equipment that's both lightweight and holds warmth.
So those would be the
really
priority things that you would spend a good amount of your money on to make sure you have the quality stuff.
Number one, what socks you wearing, right? Smart wool socks are absolutely phenomenal. They have all different types of thicknesses for all different types of activities. You want to use a sock that is insulated to the right amount. So there's summer, there's like a light sock, there's a middleweight sock, and then there's a heavy sock. And you're not wearing a heavy sock unless you're like in real cold temperatures, and in that case you're wearing a heavy sock with an insulated boot, right?
Sure. Yep.
When you're in like sub-zero, right? But normally, when you're out hiking around and you're talking like you're in the 20 to 30 degree range, if you're moving a lot, you're in maybe a 100 gram to 200 gram insulated boot and maybe a medium weight merino wool sock is what you should be in. If you run a little bit colder like me, that's probably where it'll be, or like women. If you run hot, and you just have like one pair of boots that are insulated, you might wear a light sock with that in those sort of temperatures. But it's kind of something that you have to play with for yourself. If you don't have an insulated boot, you just have a waterproof boot for being outside. Or if you're skiing, you kind of have to juggle like, hey, how hot am I running? Because you don't want to be wearing such thick socks that it's causing you to sweat too much, or it's causing too much pressure in your ski boot because your socks are too thick. And you can also layer socks. You can have a liner sock and then a heavier sock over top, and that liner sock really just functions to get as much moisture away from your skin as possible to keep you nice and dry next to your skin,
which is very important.
And then when you're talking boots, the most important thing is going to be number one, typically for winter months, being waterproof. Number two, we're looking at weight, what kind of activity you're doing in those boots, and number three, like, are they insulated, and then you can look at like what kind of traction you're getting, or like for ski boots, it's all about the ski boots, man. There's like a million different options. There's snowboarding boots. A lot of people are just like, oh, those look cool, but really it comes down to what fits your foot. What shape is your foot? What boots don't, restrict the movement of your foot but hold you in a safe position, especially for skiing. But so I would look at socks, numero uno, boots, numero dos, or whatever footwear you're utilizing.
Because like you said, because weight would be a big thing to look at there too, depending on what you're doing.
So depending on what activity you're doing, like the weight of the boot is going to be really, really important. So if you're hiking, you want to look at what temps you're hiking in, what kind of weather you're going to be getting into. If you're talking snow, obviously you're going to want a little bit of a taller boot, perhaps. Now, little, secret, right? Not so much a secret, but just a tip for those that may not have thought about this is sometimes you don't always need a taller boot. And for years, I actually had one pair of boots that were literally 4-season boots.
Nice. Okay.
For a lot of years, I wore a Solos. It's a brand you can get at REI or online. And I just had a Solo, like a leather boot, and it was not a high, what do you call it, rise, or what do you call it, how high it comes up?
A high rise. I mean, that's what we call them in basketball.
So like
high top.
Right. So you can get different heights of boot, right? And so the ones that I typically go for, and these boots that I used for years, my do-it-alls, They were actually, they did not come up very high.
Okay.
Yeah, like they maybe
did they have a little bit of rise though?
Yeah, I mean it was like, it's hardly more than like a high top basketball shoe though, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how many inches, but anyway,
you still covered the ankle.
Yeah, it comes to like basically an inch, maybe 2 above the ankle, but not a whole lot, right? It's not a big old boot that's going halfway up your calf, right? And the reason being is to save weight, you know, because the boot is obviously going to weigh more the higher up that it comes. And so in order to save weight, because if you're, pounding dirt, really hiking,
right?
You want to save as much weight as possible. I mean, ounces start to matter at that point when you're dying on the side of a hill, right?
Right, and mobility, I would think.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And some people, you may want more or less mobility at the ankle. I, knock on wood, I have pretty strong ankles, so I haven't ever, felt the need to go with a taller boot for more support. I'm more worried about like blisters and things like that.
I need the tall boots, man. My ankles are trash.
But anyway, if you're going in snow, you might think, oh, I need to get this big, heavy, pair of boots. You actually don't necessarily need to, because you can wear a thicker sock and you can get the warmth benefit that you would from like an insulated pair of boots. And then you can actually use gaiters, something that most people don't really think about using a whole lot, but you should always have a pair of gaiters with you when you're, hemming and hawing around in the winter months.
Yes.
And, those gaiters basically, make it, they attach, they go around the bottom of your shoe. And then they come up and they kind of attach onto your laces typically, and then they wrap up and they typically go and lasso around just below your knee. And that gives you a knee-high boot. And even if you do go in deep, you typically have them a little bit snug just below the knee. You're not going to get snow that goes down inside those puppies,
right?
And so you're typically pretty good, even with like a more summer-esque boot. As long as it's a good, tough, waterproof boot, then you're pretty set. If you have those and different thicknesses of socks and then gaiters, you're pretty set down below. Now, gloves is a different story, bro. The glove situation can get hot and heavy quick. Or rather freezing cold really quick.
Okay.
Gloves are a real mixed bag depending on what you're doing. And a lot of people, if you're just out hiking in the cold weather, you got pockets. It's no big deal. You can use hand warmers, whatever.
Sure.
But if you're stuck out doing an activity, like, I'll tell you what, I'm not just saying this because I do it, but I am saying this because I do it because I know how effing cold it is. But there are a few things that you can do outside in that type of weather that are colder than being on a horse. Oh, you're just up there.
Sure.
You're not really having to do a whole lot because the horse is working. You're just sitting up there letting the wind blow on you. Just freezing your butt off, dude. It's bad. Think about like riding a motorcycle in super cold weather. Like, dude, back when I was, young and stupid enough to do such things, I wouldn't get on a motorcycle if it was like less than 50 outside. You know what I mean? It's just chilly, right?
Right.
But not that riding motorcycles is stupid. Riding motorcycles is awesome, and you should do it. But I just don't, because I think my wife would kill me.
Yeah,
but,
I'm in the same boat.
So I'm ex-nayed from that, sadly, although I love them dearly. But, and anybody who's ridden a motorcycle in the cold weather, that, like, that wind going through you is cold. It's kind of similar on a horse. You're not going quite as fast. But
I mean, it would be the same thing.
Right. But, same thing. You're on, a bike or a horse or whatever. You're doing things with your hands. You can't just be locked in a pocket. You know what I mean? You got to think about that. So I will let out my secret early on here.
Here we go.
Glommets.
Glommets? Interesting. You got what are these things?
Yeah, glommets. So it's a mitt. It's like a mitten, right?
Okay.
But it's like the fingers come off. Right?
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And then the ones I like have the thumbs that also come out. So you have full dexterity. you have your hand, you have all 4 fingers and your thumb,
Right.
until you just put them away and you can flip them, back over, and then they're all sitting together inside of a nice warm mitten, but then you can take them off. And
I've never heard them referred to them as
dude,
before.
glommets, bro, they're the bomb.
Yeah.
The problem is, dude, nobody makes an excellent glommet.
Well, there's a business opportunity.
Oh, dude, the ones that I have are like a several years old, like probably at least 5 to 10 years old. Cabela's brand.
There we go.
And they're the best ones, bro. And they're gonna get worn. I guard those things with my life, dude.
Those are in the treasure box.
Many a glove has been lost on the side of the mountain. Not these, bro. They don't make them anymore this.
Yeah.
And none of the other brands know. I mean, Cryptek. I mean, I even know those guys. Like, I need to get into their ear and say, bros, glommets. Like, they'll probably be like, shut up,
Yeah, but then it'll be like, I'm right. So just make it happen.
Totally, I am right. I will argue this point to the death. I think, truth be told, I think Sitka does make a glommet, but I don't like the design of it a whole lot. And I think part of it is because there's still fingers. Like, you don't have your bare fingers.
There's still something on them.
Yeah, there's still like a liner glove on the fingers when you take off the mitten
part. So you
part.
kind of think what they're talking about, but it's not effective.
Right. It's not, because then you're still, what they say gloves are good for, right?
No, tell me.
Pissing your pants. Because you can't freaking do anything with gloves on your damn hands. You got to take your gloves off and you got to go to the bathroom real bad. I mean, that's an uncle joke.
That is an uncle joke, and I appreciate it.
Joke for you. But anyways, and then their thumb thing doesn't come out. So anyway, I could go on for hours about the stupid glove situation. But glommets, the bomb for if you have to use your hands. For like skiing and things like that, I mean, there's a lot of companies that make awesome mittens. I mean, mittens are hard to screw up. Mittens can be warm, all your fingers stay together. They're going to be way warmer than gloves. Gloves are tough. There's a lot of companies that make like a liner style glove. There's not a lot of companies that make a good lightweight glove that's actually warm and waterproof. The ones that I like the best are actually all leather, and they're Hestra brand.
Okay.
Yeah, and they actually make like, I think they call them like the claw as well. That's like you get the bottom three, and then your pointer finger, and then your thumb all separate. So it's like a 3-prong.
You're able to get some grip.
Yeah, so you can kind of have some dexterity.
Yeah.
Those are the ones, I think Casey skis in those. But I just use their 5-fingered, regular old gloves. They're all leather. They're insulated. And you actually treat them. They have a special like wax treatment. So I treat mine like once or twice a year, depending on how much I use them.
Sure.
And they're pretty sweet, man. I mean, because they're leather, they're super durable. And I have worn them hunting before.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Sweet.
gloves, super important. So on to like, like layering systems, right? Like it's so important depending on like what you're doing, whether it be, skiing or biking or anything like that, up top, you typically are going to go more layers than down below.
Right.
And depending on your weather conditions, you may, when it's really cold, man, we're like full on long johns, full on insulated waterproof pants. Like we're not messing around.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
you can't afford to mess around at that point.
But typically like that's when it's like real like the cold that's not very common, like it's like below zero.
It's freaking cold.
Friggin' cold. But when you're like normal cold, like skiing type cold, like you want to layer up pretty good. Like for skiing, I mean, typically you only need like a shell pant and then like some pretty thick long johns, and you're good to go on the bottom half. But again, for your base layer, merino wool, super important. Always do a wool base layer. That's a big mistake that people make. Is they will wear like some sort of underwear or some sort of t-shirt, or women with sports bra, like whatever is touching your skin, you have to make sure is very moisture wicking when you're outside playing around. So like even this past trip, I was monitoring my wife and how she was dressing and preparing for, for the day. And she goes, t-shirt and then base layer. And I was like, whoa, why do you have a t-shirt on right now? She's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you have a cotton t-shirt between your skin and then your base layer, merino wool layer, and then your other layers. Right. Like, that right there is going to freeze you out faster than anything. So like these people like going out hiking and stuff like that, like you really shouldn't be wearing like this t-shirt I have on now. I don't even bring t-shirts like this out like hunting or outside or skiing or anything like that. I'm always in a long sleeve and then a quarter zip.
Okay, yeah.
Merino wool, and it's always that. It's always long sleeve, quarter zip. And because you want that insulation all the way up your neck, you want to have the zip for the ventilation. So having the quarter zip is actually way better than having just a crew neck, because you can unzip it for more venting, and it's actually warmer when you zip it all the way up, obviously, because you get it to go up your neck.
Right.
The other thing that you shouldn't leave home without is some sort of neck gaiter that's also like a wool, merino wool material. Smart Wool makes a good one.
So are those like what? So what are like those ones that they can go where then people like put them up, like masks and like all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so a lot of those are like some like spandexy type elastin, like and those are okay. I mean, they're relatively those are like moisture wicking type too. They're just not going to be as warm as wool.
Right.
They're fine. I have one that I friggin' hate wearing, but with all the COVID crap and all the resorts and stuff like that, like, all the resorts were major Nazis about masking up while you're skiing, which is stupid. You're outside.
You're flying past each other.
Just so everybody knows, all the research points to COVID not being spread outdoors, period. So masking in a ski resort is retarded, just so you know.
The opinion's been made.
So yeah. So anyway, you shouldn't have to do that. Like, I get it inside.
Sure.
If they want to try and enforce that, just to be as safe as possible.
That's interesting to me. They would enforce outside, because how could they even enforce it?
Oh, dude, you can't. It's just when you're in line, right?
Oh, okay.
So
Getting
like
on the
standing in
lifts
line, close to other people, getting on the thing, and it's like, dude, you're still outdoors. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. All I want is my mini donuts and my hot cocoa.
Exactly. But anyway, so I wore one of those just to like. It's just such a pain to keep this beard contained.
Sure,
bro. It was a nightmare. And then it just gets wet. Because you're breathing out moisture, obviously. And that whole face mask just gets soaking wet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Then it's just freezing.
For anybody that's ever worn a mask skiing, like, all it does is just get wet and frothy, and then your face is cold after a while. Anyway, it's just tough it out. You're not going to get sick if your mouth is exposed. You know what I mean? Just wear goggles, wear a hat, wear a helmet, for God's sake. Keep those ears covered. Keep the top of your head covered. You'll be fine. Right?
So is there any special secret trick that you have when it comes to head covering? Just wear something that doesn't let that escape.
Honestly, like, it just depends on what activity I'm doing. So like biking, I'll wear like a very thin merino wool beanie underneath my bike helmet if it's really cold.
Yeah,
that works great. Merino wool, it's moisture wicking. It's going to get that moisture away from your skin, and it's going to make sure that you're staying as warm as possible.
Right.
Just providing that little layer of insulation. For guys out there skiing and stuff. I mean, dude, the helmets these days, like, I don't even need to talk about that. Like, you just plop a helmet on, you'll be fine.
Yeah, sure.
And then like if you're talking hunting and things like that, there's some pretty gnarly hats that have been worn and made for outdoor adventuring in the cold.
Yep.
The Elmer Fudd style,
Yeah, it's a big fan.
Right?
Big fan.
But in general, it's just, it's beanie, and then it's some sort of like synthetic, fleece sweatshirt on top of that. And then even potentially a down layer on top of that. So that's kind of the layers that you want to go for when you're layering for your kind of outdoor adventure, is merino wool base layer, and then like a thin fleece and or synthetic blend sweatshirt type. It's a very lightweight sweatshirt, but pretty warm. And then you go to your down insulation layer, and then you go to like your shell, which is typically a Gore-Tex type of a shell. I like the Cryptek Altitude series. It's called Takur for hunting. Is a super stretchy, super waterproof material. It's pretty wicked. So that's a great top layer for skiing. There's any one of a number of companies that make or for hiking for that matter. From North Face to Marmot to, I mean, you name it. There's a million different companies that make a good Gore-Tex outer layer. My favorite is Arc'teryx. They're a Canadian company. Those socialists make some great ski
gear. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
The Great White North.
Yes. They make some really exceptional gear. I think Arc'teryx gear is probably the best for skiing. You see a lot of it when you go to like resort towns like Sun Valley and Salt Lake and thing. It's a little more spendy, but like the thing about like outdoor gear, if you've been out in the elements and you've been miserable, how important having good equipment is.
Right.
Like if you're out hiking and it just sucked and you're just like, oh, I don't want to do that again. Right. Like, or like if I'm stuck out on a mountainside hunting and I'm freezing my body off, you know what I mean? Then, I'm going to be like, how much money would you pay to have, not skipped out on getting the good stuff?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. At that point, you're like, screw it. I wish I would have done it.
You're like, the extra $100 that I saved was not worth it. I am, literally near death cold right now.
Right. One of those things that it's not worth it at all to skimp on that.
And same thing with like having cold hands and cold feet skiing. Like,
that's just miserable, man.
Oh, dude, what's that comfort worth to you? And, it's not about comfort necessarily. It's literally being able to thrive and survive and doing the activities that you want to do outside, right? I flat out just don't want to be limited by not having the required equipment to go and do things outside in the winter, like skiing or hunting or hiking. I want to continue to do all these fun things,
because it's still good to get out and get moving.
It's still great to get out. It's just you just have to put a little bit more thought into it. You can't just grab the bike and go. You got to make sure that you should always have like checklists when you're going out, making sure you have all your contingencies planned, all your gear, all the stuff.
Eric, this has been very educational. I'll tell you that much. I think it's beneficial, because what people I think need to realize is if they hate going outside in the winter, this could be the first stop for them. Like, just try clothing that's a little bit different, that might work better for you and what you're doing, that protect you a little bit more, and get out and enjoy life still. Because you don't want to be cooped up and get depressed during the winter months.
Oh, no.
Because that's just it's just no fun for anybody. No fun for anybody.
No fun. Yeah, no, I think I'm just really passionate about getting outside, getting my exercise. Most of I have a horse that I like to go and ride.
Yes.
He still needs exercise. He still needs ridden. God bless.
This is a selfless endeavor.
Yeah, I need to go out and exercise that big SOB. So, yeah, I mean it's you can't just go out and wing it when it starts getting cold.
Right.
It's just like in the summer. You gotta have your sunscreen. Yeah,
it's you're prepping for everything.
It's just different. So, people just don't like to go out as much in the winter, but it's a lot of that I think is just because they're super uncomfortable and they don't, because they don't know how to prepare. Right. So,
well, there you go.
Just got to do some research, spend a little bit of money, get some of the right gear.
Right.
But it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Yeah, I would highly recommend.
Perfect. Well, I mean, I don't think Eric would have any qualms in answering any questions if anybody wants to reach out. Be like, well, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about this guy? Yeah. I'll filter some questions to you.
I have no affiliations with any of these companies.
Nope.
I mean, dude, if Smartwool wanted to hook me up on a sock sponsorship,
that'd be fine.
That would literally make my month. That would be so great.
Yeah.
But, I think... I kind of think what I think about all this stuff. And a lot of the advice I would give people on this topic, I mean, it's literally just based on my experience since I've spent a ton of time outside.
Which is the best kind of
literally
knowledge.
trial by error. You know what I mean? Like, I've tried a lot of different stuff out, like with skiing and things like that. And like, I'm just a gear nerd, man. I like to get stuff and try it out and, you know, see how it works and if it works the way it's intended to or not, or you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just one of my hobbies, I guess.
There we go. Yep, the passions, the hobbies are there. Perfect. Thanks, Eric. This was great.
Well, thank you, Hunter.
So, everybody, tune into this, and every Tuesday we're releasing more episodes.
Taco Tuesday, Powerlifting Podcast.
Powerlifting Podcast Tuesday. There it is.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on the Powerlifting Podcast. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. For more content like this, follow Eric Cafferty and the Mecca Gym on all social media platforms.